To Natural Habitat Adventures Daily Dose of Nature. Today's presentation, Tourism for Good, Balancing Benefits and Burdens, is brought to you by Nat Hab Expedition Leader Eric Ramirez. A little bit more about our presenter. Eric studied marine biology in La Paz, Baja California Sur, where he spent over 2 years researching the feeding habits of several shark species and gained hands on field experience before working in a genetics lab. He transitioned to science communication and spent 5 years as a naturalist guide leading marine tours in the Sea of Cortez. Eric now also leads monarch butterfly expeditions in the high altitude forests of central Mexico, combining his marine biology expertise with his passion for connecting people to extraordinary wildlife migrations. It's so good to have you back here, Eric. Take it away.
Thank you so much for that really incredible presentation, Brooke. That's new for me. So before I start with this presentation, I want to tell you that the reason why I decided to opt to use a different topic. Normally, I like to talk about marine life, about birds, about photography. It's because 2 weeks ago, I was traveling with my wife. We went to Thailand, and it was an extraordinary trip. We enjoyed the food, we enjoyed the landscapes, but also for me, something that I couldn't get rid of was the presence of many tourists. And I was evaluating the scene, and I was thinking, are we just doing everything good in terms of tourism, or there are sidebacks or downsiders in tourism as well? So Brooke already told you about my biography, so that there's no need to repeat the information. But something that I want to tell you is that I love nature. I love to be outside. This is something that I enjoy since I was a kid. And you can see on my picture, you can see on my face, I enjoy just to share my information and to learn about others' life. So in my life, I have two different facets. Uh, I love my work and I love traveling. So when I work, I have always this big smile and I enjoy my work. And when I travel, I have the same smile and I love traveling. So it's interesting because I've been guiding trips since 8 years ago, and when I travel, it's impossible for me not to think as expedition leader. You can ask my wife. I always keeping care of people. I keep care of the security of the staff and everyone. And but something that I've denied myself to be is always a tourist. In my past, I thought no, and that tourists sometimes we don't tourists they don't understand the things, they lack of information. But I understood that also I'm a tourist in very single aspect of my life, and I have to embrace that idea. But as a tourist, I also have the ability to learn to do the things better. So before we start, I wanted to show you this beautiful quote by Anne Carson. She's a Canadian poet. She said, "The only rule of travel is don't come back the way you went. Come back changed." This is something that we, at least in my circle of friends and with all my guests that we travel with, they want to change their mindset. So today we're going to talk about the definition of tourism, types of tourism, burdens, benefits, and what can we do to improve um, our trips and also ourselves when we travel. So first of all, what is tourism? Tourism is an activity of people traveling to and staying in places outside of the usual environment for either leisure, business, or other purposes for not more than one consecutive year. I forgot to tell you that I'm not living in Mexico anymore. I live now in Germany since April of the last year, so I consider myself not a tourist anymore. Traveling is relaxing, exciting, and give us a chance to escape the routines of our daily basis. That's why a lot of people feel so excited when they plan the trips, when they see what they want to experience in the future. So I decided this time to bring up a question for all you. I want to ask you, why do you travel? So if you have a short answer, you can just type down the answer and Brooke is going to read it for me. So you have this is your moment to explain why do you travel?
Curiosity just came in. To eat good
Curiosity.
food.
Yeah, good food. Of course, good food. Everybody has to eat. Yeah, good food, curiosity. What else?
We have to explore, to experience,
Explore.
two explorers, to explore
Yeah.
new places, to see
Yes.
different wildlife, to take photos.
Yeah. So exactly, yes,
Mhm.
that's why we travel, and we travel to grow our personalities, to also for cultural enrichment and the pursuit of new experiences, as you said before. We seek in adventures and of course relaxation as well. Travel serves as a way to gain perspective, escape of monotony, strengthen relationships, and even for education or business. Travel is only possible because of the people who work in tourism, support tourism, and the communities that call destinations home. Yes, I highlight this destinations home because when we travel, everything is new, and we want to assimilate as much as possible. But we need to understand that for residents, this is just daily basis. Daily basis. This is just routine. So these are different types of tourism. We have leisure tourism, of course. People travel for relaxation, entertainment, and enjoyment, like, for example, beach holidays or cruisers. And then we have cultural tourism. People travel to explore history, culture, heritage, festivals, art, traditions. For example, visiting museums, historical sites. Personally, I love to explore the different cuisines that the places have to offer. Religious and spiritual tourism. People travel to sacred places, temples, churches, mosques, or pilgrimage sites. Then we have adventure tourism, activities that involve risks and excitement, like trekking, rafting, bungee jumping, kayaking, one of my favorite, diving. And of course, we have ecotourism, responsible travel to natural areas, focusing on conservation and sustainability. We have other types of tourism, which I'm not going to talk about, but just to mention ones: sport tourism, health tourism, and business tourism too. So, what are the benefits of tourism? I think it's pretty obvious that tourism has doing great in different places, but what are the I'm also going to explain you what are the negative sides of tourism or the opportunity areas. So first of all, tourism provides significant economic benefits by creating a lot of jobs, generating revenue, and stimulating local business and infrastructure in different communities. It also offers cultural advantages such as preserving heritage, fostering cultural exchange, and promoting understanding between different people. How many times when you travel, how many times are you sitting on your chair or you're on the streets and you listen many languages? Have you ever thought, what are they talking about? What are they thinking? Are they also experiencing this as myself? This is just a window for many different opportunities when you travel. And so we're going to start with the economical benefits of tourism. One of the most apparent benefits of tourism is its role in generation uh, good economy for the local communities, and of course to open for new job opportunities. So economic growth and employment opportunities are the most visible ways of economical benefits. A lot of tourists, we spend money in accommodation, hotel, transportation, dining, shopping, services, stimulating the local economy and creating new jobs. Indirectly, also, we stimulate the people who are supplying all the services to the examples that I already told you. Money spent by tourists also contributes to the benefit of the local communities, of course. And according to the World Travel Tourism Council, in 2024, tourism accounted 10% of the global GDP, the global gross domestic product. 1.54 billion people traveled in 2024, and 1 out of 10 jobs are travel in and tourism related. So you can see now how tourism is really important in the global economy. So then we have the benefits, the cultural benefits. Tourism plays a significant role in preserving and promoting the cultural heritage of local communities. There's not such a big emotion that fans my heart than being a place to see these beautiful shows of these people in their daily basis wearing these traditional costumes or showing us the best of their food or performing something that for other people might be a spectacle. For them it's just something that part of their traditions. But this motivates me a lot, because also when we travel we build an avenue of both ways where we share things with the locals, and the locals in turn also they share different their culture and the different perspectives. These interactions encourage mutual respect, break down stereotypes, and foster a sense of global citizenship, which is just fantastic how we can just with this learn more about ourselves and about the people. El Dia de los Muertos is actually one of my favorite holidays in Mexico. Dia de los Muertos gathers a lot of people in cemetery. We have a beautiful atmosphere with decorative ofrendas or altars, and people want to experience this unique cultural tradition, rich in folklore as well. Dia de los Muertos also boosts Mexico's tourism sector by attracting millions of national and international visitors who spend hundreds of millions of dollars on hotels, food, and cultural events. What about community development and infrastructure? Well, also with all this money that tourists are bringing to these touristic places, the government is in charge to invest this money into public spaces, making more appeal for residents, but also for tourists as well. This money also goes to the creation of medical facilities, which are going to boost the welfare and the livelihood of the people. Also, with this money, the government can build education institutions for the benefit of the locals, and everything it's way much better when also this money goes directly to transportation, to build better roads, to connect different villages and different places as well. This awakes the interest of foreign investors who want to invest money in different places. Also, this creates a lot of positive cascade effects in the local communities too. Um, so, what are the environmental benefits of tourism? So, I keep saying this in my trips. If you travel with me, you know that I like to say that there's a huge connection between different actors. And for me, this is the play: government, scientific community, NGOs, local communities, and tourists. They all have to play their role in this orchestra, let's say. And in the center, what we have are the local communities, and the most important, the ecosystems, the environment. So of course, the government is in charge to establish regulations, guidelines, and also the natural protected area. Scientific community with NGOs are in charge to assess, to evaluate these places in order to see if it's possible to bring tourism to these places, and also to assess what kind of organisms do we have, how fragile the ecosystems are as well. And then we have local communities who are going to take advantage of these places, and in exchange, they will protect these places. And of course, we have tourists, us, which are going to inject money in order to make all this orchestra function. So we're going to start with this conservation funding. Tourism, when well managed, generates vital funding streams that directly support the protection of natural environments and endangered species. So how does it work? It works with park entrance fees. So when you visit one of these places, national parks, reserves, protected marine areas, all this money is collected and it goes to the trail maintenance, the salaries of the rangers, habitat restoration, and visitor education programs as well. Also, we have wildlife permits. If you want to take advantage of these resources, you have to get a special permit. For example, if you want to see the gorillas in Rwanda, you have to get a permit, or whale watching in Baja California, or see Komodo dragons in Indonesia. What Brooke already told you that I work in Nat Hab guide trips to see the monarch butterflies. These places are mm, boosted and are regulated by local communities. So all the money that we pay goes directly to the community. That's just an example of this. So also in La Paz, for example, if you want to see the whale shark, you have to have a permit. When I was guiding trips in Baja, I had to have that permit, also the captain and also the company. Protecting through ecotourism. When local communities benefit economically from nature tourism, they gain a strong incentive to protect ecosystems and wildlife rather than exploit it or destroy them. Um, how does it work? Economic incentives. Communities earn income through guiding, accommodations, food services, cultural experiences as well. This income can replace destructive practices like logging, overfishing, poaching as well. The community basically owns these places. They lead the expeditions, they offer all the services, and locals become stewards of forests, reefs, or wildlife because their livelihoods depend on keeping ecosystem healthy. One of the biggest example of this is Caupulmo National Park in Mexico. 30 years ago, Caupulmo, just to let you know, is the northernmost coral reef in eastern Pacific Ocean. It is located in the Gulf of California. 30 years ago, all the organisms were in a huge peril. This ecosystem was in the age of collapsing. But all of a sudden, with a lot of work with scientific community, NGOs, local communities, the fishermen they start to see ecotourism as a better way to keep care of the natural resources. Actually, if you could to go to Caupulmo to dive, you will see massive group of fish, a lot of different sharks, a very healthy environment. Raising awareness. Personally, one of my favorite. Tourism is just about visiting beautiful places. It is an opportunity to educate visitors on ecosystems, biodiversity, and the importance of conservation. Guided experiences often inspire travelers to change behaviors at home, becoming advocates for protecting nature. How does it work? Sorry, guys, but I need to talk about Natural Habitat Ventures, the company that I work for. Um, Nat Hab has an amazing group of guides, skilled guides with a lot of passion, and they explain the role of how does this species, habitats, and ecological process work in nature, and visitors learn not just what they're seeing, but also why it matters. A very profound meaning of the elements in nature. Um, Emotional connection. Imagine yourself, you're under the tree, and all of a sudden you see this huge kaleidoscope of monarch butterflies flying at the same time. Of course, that this could be a life-changing moment in your life that is going to be associated with nature. So um, after these events, it's really impossible that your mind doesn't change. And after these trips, what our guests do, they work as ambassadors for conservation. They inspire travelers, share the experience through the history, stories, photos, and social media. This makes a ripple effect that hits more people in different places. Restoring projects through tourism is also a good alternative. It can also directly support ecological restoring projects from coral reefs to forest. So how does it work? So when you part of your when you visit one of these places, the fees and also some visitors they decide to donate money um, to these projects. They actually work like funding as well. And a lot of scientists who are taking part of these experiences Also, they get benefit because people in the tours actually are donating money to the research. Also, it works via volunteer. A lot of people in different places, they want to, I don't know, they want to travel to Indonesia to reforest certain regions in Southeast Asia. Or also a good one is partnership with NGOs and parks. Tourism operators often partner with conservation organizations to channel guest contributions into long-term projects. This is what we do with WWF, and we feel very proud to be partnered with them. But I'm going to tell you this later. So after all these benefits that tourism bring to nature and local economies, I just need to tell you that nothing is 100% good or 100% bad. This functions in every single aspect of our life, but unfortunately, in my last trip, I've seen this image more times. Sometimes we just want to enjoy everything, the best view, the best food, the best hotel, the best experience without even thinking if we are damaging or we are affecting in a negative way the livelihood of many locals or or obviously the function of the ecosystem as well. So what are the negative or the burdens of tourism? So it is very clear that after the pandemic, everything was completely different. And as we have seen, tourism is not bulletproof industry. Sudden global changes like pandemic are enough powerful to jeopardize the income and survival of popular touristic sites. This um, this graphic is telling you all the amount of money accounted by tourism before the pandemic and after, and the difference is a lot. Okay, so economic benefits and costs of tourism reach virtually everyone in the region in one way or another, but at the end the benefits from tourism, we need to ask ourselves who pays for it, who pays for these benefits. I mean, we want to always earn money, we want to always get the best, but who's paying this? Nature, local communities, investors? So another negative impact is the leakage of revenue. A lot of profits often go to foreign-owned airlines, hotel chains, and tour operators rather than staying in local communities. Inflation and high cost of living is a huge problem because local residents face rising property prices, and living costs in popular tourist destinations are they just skyrocket, and people cannot afford this. I've seen with my eyes in Mexico and other places how the locals that used to live in the center like 30, 40 years ago, now they live in the outside and in the outside part of the city. So this creates a lot of inequality, and this is not offering an alternative to people. And also, of course, seasonally jobs. Many of these jobs are not permanent, and many tourism jobs are temporary, low paid, and they're pretty insecure for many people. Social cultural impacts, cultural erosion. How many times when we travel we see people disguising with these traditional customs and they think that it's great, they think that they're honoring the people. In my opinion, just as personal opinion, I think they're not. I think that these traditional customs, they're more than just a regular basis, a daily basis outfit. This are represented a lot, but sometimes as a tourist we don't know the impact of this. Loss of authenticity. um, and I include myself. I did it in the past without knowing, but very often when we travel to different places, we want to see a luau, we want to see the Balinese dance because this is something traditional. This is something that you must see. But many times these uh, spectacles are adapted to for tourists, and their lack of authenticity. And many times, for example, locals, they're doing this because they're obtaining a benefit, but in the process they're losing the purpose of these old traditions. What about overcrowding and pressure on infrastructure? Wow, you can see this everywhere. When we went to Bali, for example, we see how uh, the avenues, the streets, they were congested, a lot of traffic, a lot of tourists in motorbikes, and also the healthcare is not always the best. They don't have a proper waste management, and water systems also, they tend to take all this water directly to the ocean or rivers or lakes. Uh, Social inequality also does exist. Benefits might be uneven distributed between the wealthy investors and the local communities. Community displacement, this happens very often, and now it's more and more present. You can see this in US, in different big cities, in Mexico City. You can see this everywhere. Residents pushed out by development of resorts, hotels, or Airbnb expansion as well. um, this is also called gentrification. Like sometimes people think that, oh yeah, like working for a European country, but living in Bali is fantastic because my money works more and I can live here. Yes, but we pushing out the people who have been living there before us. So another negative impact is negative quality of life. A lot of tourism creates resentment among locals. Also called tourism fatigue. People just tired to see people taking pictures or visiting these places, gentrifying their local shops or their places, like in Venice or in Barcelona. Um, Loss of privacy and community identity, especially in the small towns and heritage sites. People don't feel attached to these villages anymore because people from other places took part since a long time ago, and now they have a different culture. What are the environmental negative impacts? So, overcrowding and degradation of natural sites. Yes, infrastructure development, the construction of hotels, roads, and other facilities also is promoting the habitat loss, deforestation, and degradation of sensitive ecosystems like wetlands of coral reefs. Uh, Coral reefs, that's a topic for me, especially when I go snorkeling to other places. I've seen many times people stepping on top of a coral. And of course, that I'm not the coral police or something like that, but I like to invite them to not do this. But it surprises me that many times people, they don't know what they're doing. I remember the last time someone told me, what is coral? I don't know what it's coral. And I was like, wow, yes, there's a lot of misinformation. Infrastructure pressure, again, building hotels, airports, resorts often means deforestation, and this is just a response of massive groups of people visiting these places. Um, the part does exist. Tourists come for pristine nature, but too many visitors make it vanish. Hmm? What about pollution? It's not a secret that air travel is the largest source of tourism carbon emissions. Tourism contributes about 9% of the greenhouse gases, and of course that a lot of plastic water bottles and also single-use plastics are discarded directly in these high tourist regions. Sorry, but sometimes we believe that it is enough to put our trash into the trash bin and magically our trash is going to have its direct access to the plastic heaven. That doesn't work like this. Unfortunately, some places they have way, not a proper way to dispose this contaminants, and eventually they will end up in the water. uh, resource depletion is also a huge problem because um, humans need water, food, and also energy. We cannot skip these three things. So what happened when we have these massive resorts with big pools or golf courses which demand high amounts of water? Yes, this water is distributed unevenly in the local in the local communities, unfortunately, creating a huge hydric stress in different places. Yes, according to different studies, tourists they tend to spend between 400 liters and 2,000 liters per day. This is between 5 and 10 times more than residents. That's a lot of water, to be honest. And about energy, many destinations come in many destinations, the energy comes from fossil fuels. Large resorts, hotels, and business demand high amounts of energy. The picture on the left is La Paz. We have there a thermoelectric plant, which is burning a lot of oil in order to produce energy. And this is not only bad for the environment because there's a lot of pollutants on the air. Also, sometimes we experience energy blackouts. And also in other places, they experience energy blackouts because the energy is not enough. What about wildlife disturbance? uh, our behavior is stressing a lot of the animals. Social media, in my opinion, is the main responsible of this because when we are scrolling our phone, we see a reel for 40 seconds reel when we see a couple who's traveling from Germany or from Denmark, and then they take a flight and they do check in their hotel, they change their clothes, and they go on a tour, in a boat tour trip, and then all of a sudden they're swimming with a whale shark. This is not how the things work, and sometimes we think that is very easy, but it is not. It demands a lot of energy, a lot of patience, and it's better to have organic encounters, not provoked encounters. In Bali, for example, people are feeding monkeys, and monkeys they are very used to this, and sometimes they're even stealing the food from travelers. Noise pollution, uh, especially in these places where we have a lot of boat traffic. Whales and dolphins, they pay the consequences of these actions. They have to echolocate, and also this is the way how they communicate. So with a lot of noise, it's for them really really impossible, and it's a lot of stress for them, and also for the other species like sea turtles. And there's no point to explain this. This is pretty obvious that this shouldn't be called an experience when you are traveling. We shouldn't show animals as tokens, as objects that we can manipulate it. This could injure animals, but also we can put in a huge danger our lives as well with these experiences. But of course, there's always a bright side. There's always the something like an opportunity area with all these things that I said. So tourism for good. Part of it is to balance. Um, Tourism doesn't have to be destructive. With the right practices, I believe we can protect nature, empower communities, and give travelers meaningful experiences. The key is the balance, reducing negative impacts while amplifying the positive ones. That's paramount. Fostering community engagement, investing in sustainable financing and green infrastructure, promoting low impact activities like hiking or wildlife observation, adopting renewable energies are just to mention some examples. What about the practical strategies? So limit visitor numbers in fragile ecosystem. That's the way how we can just reduce the amount of visitors. Implementing carrying capacity guidelines. In so many places, this measurement works fantastic. In my opinion, guiding World Trek trips in Mexico, especially in La Paz, specifically speaking in La Paz, is just phenomenal, and it has become a really good example of good practices. In La Paz, for example, we don't open the activity if we don't have enough sharks to do it. Also, the number of guests, the number of people in the water is limited. So everything is limited to ensure the welfare of the watchers, of course, and second, the enjoyment of our guests. Use permit systems also works fantastic to manage big numbers. Rotate access to certain trails or sites to prevent overuse and allow ecosystems to recover is also a well thing that we need to implement in different places. Promote off-peak and low-impact travel. Thumbs up. It's just fantastic because how many times people want to travel only on winter and only on summer. I understand that, for example, my wife, she works for the government, and our long like our long vacations are in summer. And I understand that in summer a lot of people from Europe or from a lot of places, they want to travel. This is the time where this is the moment where they have time to travel. I understand, but it's better if we encourage tourists to visit outside peak season to reduce strain on local resources and spread economic benefits year round. That's also really good for the local economy, because sometimes we have a high peak where we are working, and then for 3 or 4 months, none. We don't have anything. This also creates a lot of chaos in terms of incomes in local communities. Eco-certified accommodations and tour operators. This is great because we can support hotels and lodges with and who have certifications like RINKE, EarthCheck, or LED. That means that they ensure responsible practices like energy efficiency, waste reduction, or water conservation. Very recently, I told you before, we went in Thailand, and when I was diving in this big company, I realized that they had stickers uh, that said that they were green certified, and they were promoting ecotourism, and they were not using single-use plastics, and they were promoting coral restoration programs. That's fantastic. I felt really happy that part of the money was going directly to these programs. Choose operators committed to wildlife welfare, local community partnership, and fair wages. That's something also really important that we can do. Um, in due possible, when we travel, especially if we cannot use a train or shared shuttles or cycling or walking tours, if you have to take a flight, you can offset your carbon emissions. So yes, at the end, this is just a great opportunity to do many incredible, many good things for the local communities, but also for nature as well. So follow the ecotourism practices. So what is ecotourism? So briefly, ecotourism emphasizes minimizing negative environmental and social impacts, contributing to conservation of natural and cultural resources, and ensuring direct economic benefits for local communities and host populations. So, yes, we need to understand that this is very complex because we have to gather different participants in our whole operation, and sometimes it's not very easy. I told you before, I used to own a company like a few years ago, and I called myself an eco touristic company. But just like in a introspective and retrospective, I think I wasn't that eco, to be honest, because I thought that it was super easy just to follow certain guidelines, but it's just a more complex compound of different things that we have to achieve in order to call ourselves eco. So the benefits of ecotourism are just it promotes environmental awareness, creates new revenue stream for locals. Of course, local economies shouldn't be oblivion. Lowers carbon emissions, encourages conservation and preservation of our natural resources, and educates both locals and tourists, because it's not only tourists that should learn, it's about locals that should learn what are the best practices for this industry. So, principles of responsible tourism. And for me, this is paramount, and this is the most important. And these things uh, you can use when you travel. And I guess like this is our responsibility to follow these guidelines. So first of all, respect local culture and people. Yes. So everything starts when we travel to different countries. I understand that you shouldn't be 100% prepared with language, but at least you can have some courtesy words like thank you, please. If you talk the local language, people feel really, they feel like this is a appreciation gesture from you. Second, ask permission before taking pictures of people. Okay. Yes. Yeah. People cooking on the streets, people walking are not attractions. They're just people doing what they do in a regular daily basis. So if you want to take a picture of them, just ask them first. That's a courtesy. That's good for them as well. Support the local economy. Stay in locally owned hotels or guest house. Eat at local restaurants and try traditional food. This happens very often. I understand that, especially when we travel to Southeast Asia or not Western countries, food might be a little bit tricky. Sometimes it's more spicy or with stronger flavors. I understand, but just give it a try. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't, but it's just interesting to try new things and just stay away from our daily routines. Buy souvenirs and crafts directly from local artisans instead of imported goods. This also enhance the sense of pride on these communities. Travel responsible. Use public transportation, walk or cycle when possible. Offset your carbon footprint for flights if you can, and choose eco-certified tour operators and accommodations. Another one, protect the environment. Use reusable bottles. Please reject every single-use plastic. We don't want this at all. Save water and energy. Turn off the lights, AC, and taps when they're not in use. I understand that it feels very good, especially when we visit these places, warm places. We want to, as soon as we arrive to our hotel room, we want it to be super cold and comfortable. But that represents a lot of energy and a lot of resources for these places. Not because it's already paid. That doesn't mean that we have to abuse. Okay, and this is the most important thing for me. Be a responsible guest. As a guest, we don't establish the rules. We just follow the rules and the regulations, especially in protected areas. Okay? So sometimes we want to arrive and we want to establish our rules and we want everything in this moment. I understand that we have invested a lot of money and we always want to get the best. But sometimes the best that we can get is the best that the people can offer to us. Yeah. And it's important to be very grateful of this opportunity that we have when we travel to other places. People seriously are trying to give us their best. Um, Choose ethical activities, avoid activities that exploit people or animals like elephant rides, or when they're feeding sharks in order to lure them close to the divers. This is also not really good in my opinion. Educate yourself and the others. So after this, or I mean, before your trip starts, you can learn more about history, traditions, and environment. So, in my opinion, this awakes me a lot of interest, and also um, it awakes me my curiosity. Someone said before, curiosity. I travel because I'm curious about the world. So when I learn more about these places, I think these places are getting a different meaning. Yeah. And share responsible travel practices with friends and family. So now, what are we doing in Nat Hab? I know that I'm doing this presentation because I do care about tourism and not because the company is paying me to do this, although they do, but also because I think, in my opinion, our values are aligned. I also believe that in order to take our visitors to these places, we have to understand how local communities and how the environment is so fragile that if we don't keep care of it, it won't exist in the future. How many times in my past I've heard people in our welcome dinner presentation, I came here because I don't know when this incredible phenomenon is going to disappear. We don't want that. So that's why our mission is conservation through exploration, protecting our planet by inspiring travelers, supporting the local communities, and boldly influencing the entire travel industry. We want also to create a ripple effect among other companies. We are not competing against other companies. Instead, we want to show them that this is the correct path in order to conserve our natural resources. So in 2019, Nat Hab operated the world's first zero waste adventure in Yellowstone National Park, an ambiguous quest to reduce waste so dramatically that everything we generate on a week-long trip would fit into one quart-sized bottle. And we did it. If you have traveled with me, you know that I like to also offer different alternatives for single-use plastic. I know that sometimes it's almost impossible to use them, but if we use them, I encourage my guests to follow the eco-brick principle. If you want to know more about this eco-brick principle, I can just email you at the end of this presentation, or maybe later you can email me and I can just explain you how this principle work. Carbon neutral pioneer. Nat Hab has been carbon neutral since 2007, offsetting all the CO2 emissions from trips and office operations through carbon credits. So how does it work? We fund carbon reduction projects to balance emissions in an amount equal to what is released on our trips and by our guest transportation to and from our adventures. For example, we support renewable geothermal and hydroelectric energy in Sumatra, Indonesia, and we provide high efficiency cook stoves in Ethiopia to replace the burning of wood. Just for giving you an example. Also, you don't know uh, how like how excited I become when I'm wearing my uniform and I see the panda logo on my uniform. I feel like I'm representing something really important, and it is. Nat Have and What Fun have been partners since 2003, and with this, NatHab has provided more than $9 million to support WWF global conservation efforts and will continue to give 1% of gross sales plus 185,000 annually. So, and our travelers have donated an additional 40 million in support of WWF uh, current projects, which are around 2,000 conservation projects around the globe. So this is just fantastic how two entities who are keeping care of the world are working together to benefit local communities and to benefit, of course, our natural resources. So the green office and operation, this is another thing that is happening in the office. Personally, I've never experienced this before, but I know from people, from friends who work in the office, that they promote the use of alternative energies, renewable energies, e-bikes, alternative transportation. They have a very intense recycling program, and also they recycle a lot. They use a lot of recycled materials as well. Um, just to finish, NatHab also supports various philanthropic initiatives and destinations we visit. We actively pursue innovative efforts to protect the environment and promote the welfare of local communities. So this is it, and I hope that you liked my presentation. If you want to know more about these things, I can share to you the information that I've gathered. Also, I leave you here my social media. I like to share my adventures in nature. I'm a photographer. I also like to share photos of wildlife. If you want to email me to ask me any questions, if you want to share your experiences, if you want to discuss, debate, whatever, this is my email account. And of course, if you want to travel to Mexico to see the monarch butterflies, these are my next trips. So again, thank you so much. This has been a very incredible journey. So I don't know if you have questions, please. I'm very open.
Eric, thank you so much for that thorough and very thought-provoking presentation. This is a topic I am very passionate about myself, and the whole reason why I, as a scientist, actually went into the tourism field is pretty much for those reasons that you just gave. So, thanks for that. I'm very appreciative of bringing this to the
Thanks for
forefront.
coming. Yeah.
Awesome, everybody. We do have some time now, just like Eric said, for some questions. So if you have anything you would like to ask him, I will be the moderator for you. So go ahead and drop them in the chat feature of your control panel, and we will see how many we can get through. Um, okay, great. And since this is definitely close to your heart, we have somebody who's asking a little bit more about ecotourism with whale sharks and that they have only heard negative things. Could you maybe go into that industry a little bit further and maybe talk about, yeah, or the bad sides, and if there are any companies that are doing it the right way? That would be great.
It's very interesting because we use okay that's it's gonna be a long answer, but we used to run a Wall Street experience with Nat Hab, but unfortunately after pandemic, that place in the south of Mexico just exploded, and there were many tourists. Basically, in front of my eyes, it was out of control. So that's why Nat Hab decided to cancel this itinerary. Yes, in many places, this activity is conducted in a very unethical way because sometimes they attract them with plankton or small pieces of fish. So whale sharks are filter feeders, and they basically feed upon plankton and other different type of species of invertebrates and fish. So they gather the sharks like in a kind of like corral, and they just feeding them. And you see how people are swimming around them, they are touching them. This is not an organic way to see a bull shark. And yes, there are many places where this activity is conducted in a very ethical way. I will always say, in my opinion, La Paz is a great example. La Paz, I worked there for 5 years, and it's just fantastic the way how it's regulated. The people control everything, the entrance to the place, how many boats are doing the activity. They are patrolling sometimes these places with drones. So it's just incredible because just a few years ago, when I was starting in La Paz, when I was 18, 13 years ago, we were not doing this activity like nowadays. We were all jumping at the same time, touching the shark, no guides, just the captain. So for me, that's the best place. But I've heard that there are other places like Ningaloo Reef in Australia. They also have good guidelines, and also I've heard that in Oman and the Red Sea also they have different guidelines as well, but I'm not sure. Yeah, what I recommend if you want to see the whale sharks is to travel to La Paz for sure in Baja California Sur. Yeah, sorry for this long answer.
Never apologize for a thorough answer. That's what we're here for. We're here to learn from you, especially from an expert. You're from there, you know the area. These are your species. Of course, we
Yeah.
want to hear from you. You have the expert opinion. So thanks for that.
Yes.
Um, yeah, this is a good question too. Is there a way to not contribute to gentrification of an area?
Wow, that's a very good question, and it's very hard to answer because um I mean our simple presence in at restaurants, hotels, or shops is just part of gentrification. What I like to tell the people is that when you come to this place, try not to unbalance the, for example, the what is the name? I forgot the name. Oh, apartments, the rents. Okay, it will come eventually. Try not to imbalance the market of the rents of the apartments and the houses, because this is something that happens very often. I've seen this in many expat groups on Facebook when I was in La Paz. A lot of people coming with an offer like, "Hey guys, I want to live in La Paz. What can I do with a $2,000 budget?" Of course, like if you say this, everybody will say, what a coincidence. I have an apartment that costs exactly what you have. So try to do your research before you travel, to see what like the fairness in the prices, to see like uh is it okay to bring a lot of money if it's not going to create an imbalance in the places. Also, in order to avoid gentrification, I like to visit like local hidden places, places which are not trendy as well. And it's very hard because for a lot of people they just want to show this on the social media, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally understand. Yeah, one of the things I love to do is find and stay at locally run hotels or bed and breakfasts where it is like an actual, mom and pop place where it is a business. And so, they're contributing to a local culture and a local society, and not just taking advantage and, like, yeah, we've all heard it. There's been a lot of upheaval, you could say, pushing back on like companies like Airbnb and stuff like that. So
Yes, that's
it's an interesting time in tourism right now, to say the least, especially working in the field.
definitely.
There's a lot of uproar. But again, like you said, Nat Hab is leading the way. So it's great to work for a company who has the ethos that it does.
Yes,
Let's
for
see
sure.
here. We have a couple more coming in. I will read. See what they are. Hmm. So I'm going to translate this question. This is a really good one. Sorry, it took me a little while to read. And it's something that you and I started to chat about at the beginning. So, for those who don't know, Court Whalen, he is our Chief Sustainability Officer. And he has said multiple times, and I love the way he says this, that his personal goal is to maximize the benefits of conservation travel and of tourism, instead of just trying to reduce the negatives, but also how much can we do the positives. So for you, and going on that, Eric, could you expand on that a little further? How can we do the maximum amount of good with the positive things that we can bring to areas when we travel?
That's a very interesting question. So I guess like going steering towards the alternatives, that's for me the most important thing. Yeah, because sometimes it's very hard to fix what is broken already, but if we are thinking out of the box, if we're thinking about the different opportunities that we can get from the problems, maybe we can just reach these solutions that are going to bring a lot of benefits to the community. So an example of this is that um, local communities, they are there, they have existed since a long time ago, and how we can improve our relationship with them, for example, that'll be for me a great solution, because this is going to create a better understanding uh, that's going to steer towards the conservation of this place. This is just for mention one. What do you think, Brooke?
Yeah, I mean that's absolutely. I like to compound as many things as possible. Like I said, from the hotel I choose to, if even like an airline, there's some airlines now that you can actually offset your flights as a traveler, which is super cool that a lot of airlines now offer that. So from the moment you book, like the airline that you choose to where you stay to who you travel with, yeah, there's a lot of ways that you can make your trip, even a personal one, or you could just book something with Nat Hab and let them do all the work.
Of course,
But even your personal vacations, it's you can do as many things as possible to have the least impact as possible
the
and
less
balance
impact
the
possible.
good.
That's really important. Yeah, because also I remember I was in a bird watching class with my professor, and someone asked, uh, how can we nullify our impact in nature? And he said we cannot. It's impossible. We like, if our simple presence is always create an impact in nature, but how can we diminish this negative impact in order to do something better? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, just being fully aware and fully present. I think that's the big thing. The more we know, the more we can act.
exactly. Yeah.
But Eric, that is the last question we will take. We have reached the top of the hour already, so I will turn it to you for any last closing comments.
Okay. When I was checking all my pictures in the past, I realized that I made a lot of mistakes. To be honest, I was unaware. I was not really. I did not understand how tourism worked when I was young. But it's okay if we made mistakes, as long as we understand from our failures, our mistakes, and we understand that we need to keep care of our um, natural resources and local communities. So I just think that past is in the past, and we need to look forward and just do better, always.
That's the perfect way to end this presentation, Eric. Thank you so much. And I would like to thank everybody who tuned in. If you're interested in information on how you can travel with Nat Hab, give us a call at 800-543-8917 or send us an email at info@nathab.com. Our adventure specialists are happy to help you. Join us tomorrow for our next daily dose of nature. You can check out this week's lineup, including registration links, on our website at nathab.com/webinars. We did record today's presentation, and the replay will be available on our website very soon. With that, I will conclude the webinar. Goodbye, everybody.